Next up, we have Andrew Sherman, who's we've already heard a little bit from, the IT coordinator for Sump Memorial Library. And I've been really looking forward to this presentation in particular. We're going to find out what he thinks you need on a library website. So I'm really excited about this one. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, I'm Andrew Sherman, the IT coordinator at Sump Memorial Library, and one of my responsibilities is the library website. When I started here, we had a really awful-looking, probably because it was so dated, website that was all done in Dreamweaver. So it was very difficult to make rapid changes and updates to. We chose to migrate our website over to a WordPress site, and what pretty much we initially migrated the site, we just took what we had and got it up on the new site, and then have been refining it over time. Not being a librarian, coming in my 4th year of being in library land, I wasn't real familiar with how patrons use it and that. And as being here and taking questions from the patrons, we've made a lot of refinements to try and make it as easy for the patrons to get to what they want, when they want, and quickly. So one of the first things, and I attended several sessions at PLA also on website design, and the top thing they all said had to be the first thing people see on your website is your hours. This was everybody session I talked to, they said that is the #1 thing your patrons are going to go look for. Obviously the digital age is coming, but we're still very much of a physical environment, and patrons, they said some of the people are claiming 9 out of 10 of your patrons, when they bring your website, that's all they want to know is, are you open, and if you're not, when will you be open next? The second thing that was highly recommended was having a search window right at the start of your site. So patrons, the second thing that a lot of them claim to, the first thing you want to do is they want to go to your catalog and see if you have what they want. And the other recommendation, and we'll talk a little more about this as it gets into lingo, their recommendation was not to call it just a little link with catalog search or search or anything, especially the word like using catalog, or even worse, OPAC. Patrons don't know what that is. Especially when you think about catalog in a library context, it's not quite what a catalog is in a retail context, and then print catalogs in a retail context are going away. A lot of younger people don't probably even really know what a paper catalog is. So their recommendation was to use a phrase like, it's just not search, it's search for, what we chose to do with ours is search for books, movies, and more using, and then we chose to include catalog in the statement as an attempt to try and educate a little bit. One of the experts whose presentation I sat in, his favorite thing was just search for stuff, and not having really anything more than that. The next thing that they highly recommended was having the ability for your patron to quickly get to a link to log into their account, so they can do renewals, or then search for what they want and place holds. So we've added that as the third thing in our front page. And again, we don't say just account or account login or login. We kind of state kind of an action there. It's like, you want to renew items or place holds, log into your account here. And again, it makes it a lot more effective communication for our patrons that don't really use or know kind of the library lingo. One thing that kind of has gone out of style, and I'm not saying it's good or bad, I'm going to bring up an example here. Can you see that? Example of the Harold B. Library. So what this is an example of something that's kind of gone out of style is what they refer as a three-column website, where you've got information on the left and the right and the center. It's kind of recommended going to a 2-column where you've got your kind of your primary information and links on one side or the other. I actually don't think this is that bad. I think it's a fairly well-designed website for doing a 3-column. But to give you an idea where they're coming from, let me bring up this one. So here's one that's kind of all over the place. It's not really sure which area is a primary or anything you should be looking at. Again, the vogue for the websites now is to get away from the 3 or more areas in your website and try and keep it as simple as possible. The other recommendation, and this is kind of based on a standard you see on the web a lot these days, is on your footer of your web page you should have the information for your library. So your address, your phone number, possibly an email address. I'm not a big one for putting email addresses out in the clear. I like to have you have to click or roll over on it. It comes kind of maybe from the old days where some of the hackers and that would have spiders crawling around trying to capture as many email addresses as they could so they could spam you. But that was another big recommendation. And then we get to the language. We kind of talked about catalog and OPAC, but really we're talking about any kind of words that it's a library word that a patron isn't going to know what it is or isn't going to understand what it is. Try and come up with an alternative. Think like a patron. What would the patron be looking for, not what a librarian would be looking for. Another item is your fact page, or how do I. Originally, the fact page in our website, so where you see each of these titles, it was actually how do I renew an item, and then it went into a couple paragraphs on how to do that. Then how do I place a hold in an item, and it went into a couple paragraphs on how to do that. So to find the instructions you were looking for, you were having to scroll through this very, very lengthy web page. What we chose to do was just basically making a list of links. So if you go to our fact how do I page, it's a very quick, easy to see list. You can click on the item you want. And what we set it up to do is to take you to a post that we put on the website with the instructions. And there's a couple advantages to that. Obviously, it makes our fact page very quick and easy to scan. But if your website has a search feature on it, it takes you right to that. For the WordPress, with the kind of the default search widget we have, is they'll bring up the pages that have that, but that search is the best match for that post that you've done up. It's the first thing that comes up on your search, and it makes it easy for the patron to locate those instructions they're looking for. A new thing that you really need to think a lot about is mobilizing your website. Our website's pretty brief and clean, so it doesn't look bad on like an iPhone or an Android phone, especially if you flip your phone over on its side to get to a broader screen. But what we had noticed is, I don't know how many of you on a website have any kind of analytics tool or have Google Analytics enabled onto your website. I'm going to use an example here of Google Analytics, and they have a really cool report that you can run called Visitor Flow. And what that allows you to do is see where people are coming into your website, and then what's their first interaction, where are they going. For example, this interaction, this web page is called Hours and Events, which on our initial website, that's where our library hours were located at. So if you want to see when the library is open, you need to bring up our site and then click into Hours. So we used to have basically this huge block here for starting pages, and then we'd have this huge block here for Hours and Events because they were going getting into here and then clicking into here just to get our hours. When we got Hours just right out on the main page, it turned into this very small second event hit. So really the only reason people are going to that now is to view our calendar and a description of our events and programming that's going on in the library. The other nice thing about your analytical report is we'll tell you what kind of device people are using when they're visiting your website. This is one that shows operating system. And you can see for the month this is for, Windows PCs were our largest use by our patrons into the website. But over the last few years, the smartphones have really kind of come on big time as far as taking into use of the website. Let me bring up a different report here real quick to show you. So here's a current one from just last month. And you can see if we combine the Safari use and the Chrome use, we're getting as many people hitting our website using mobile browsers, mobile devices, as we are using PCs. So we decided to take the plunge into the mobilization of our website. And depending on whose website tool you use, what kind of control you have over it, we're a WordPress site, so we were able to use a tool called WP Connect. And what that does is it's a slick little tool. It was $50. It has some nice features with it. And what it'll do is it'll detect the display size of the device connecting to your website and then automatically reformats the web page to be viewable on that device. So an example of what that looks like. So here's our main website, and here's how it appears on a mobile device. So this is basically exactly how it appears on my iPhone now. You'll notice the links here to the right are dropped, but it's still got the key features for our patrons that are using the mobile device. So it's got our hours, our search, our login, our list of our new items, Overdrive, Zenio, and then just our quick announcements and stuff. And the nice thing that this provides that some of the free or less robust tools don't is if the patron wants to see the full desktop mode, they can click on that and switch to the full desktop view of the screen. And then if they want to go back in the mobile version, they can again switch back, and now they're viewing it back in the cleaner, lighter mobile version. So it makes for a really, really nice tool to let our patrons that are bringing our website up for information on a small screen just see the basics, get to what they want to very quickly, and make it much more readable on that small screen. I'm going to show you a couple examples here. So kind of here's my example of a not that great website. It is in a 2-column. It's got a lot of stuff on it. This stuff's really, really small. This is hard to read on a PC screen. So you can imagine what this is like to try and view and read on a mobile screen. It's just not going to work very well. Here's one I'm not quite sure what this library was going for. Kind of little graphic thing in the middle. And then this is kind of that old, what I would call kind of dinosaur look to the website. Ours was very similar to this before we redid it. It's not very easy to make out, where the things are and what you want to do. Definitely could use some updating. Here's another one where I don't think it would actually be too bad, except that they've got this mess of tabs along the top for how to get to all their different options. It's not, again, it's hard to read, it's hard to scan. It's going to be difficult to read on a mobile device, especially with this 3-column, 3-area kind of setup. It's just not going to work very well. The other thing you might want to think about avoiding too, especially when we're talking our mobile users, is having a lot of pictures or graphics Video can be a real killer where patrons got to wait for the video to load before your web screen comes up, and that we really, really, really need to be thinking about the experience on the mobile device. Here I'm going to get into an example. You can see this is where they've got all these links are set up to graphics. So I'm on a fast PC on a very fast internet connection or library, and you can see all those clocks running for all these individual graphics to come up. So their website is actually, each of these is the different features of their website, and they've done it. I'm not sure what they're shooting for. I can't find anything or look for anything, figure out where the heck I'm going. And these are all individual picture links to let you click and go into something. And it's just absolutely horrible. It's just not very usable. And what's worse, is that was kind of their old website, and this is kind of what they upgraded it to. So you can see all those spinners again. So now they call it the virtual library. Still loading, still loading, still loading. Now, and I got a message about it wanting to use stuff on my PC. I couldn't imagine bringing this site up on a mobile device. It would be absolutely horrible. And again, how do you figure out where anything's at? There's really no explanation or anything. Nothing at all. Just a really, really bad website for a PC or a mobile perspective. And then I'm kind of picking on the same library a lot, but all their stuff was, this is their mobile site. Again, not no really any explanation. You see me putting my hand on the icons. They didn't use anything like a rollover or anything like that, which is again a nice tool that you can use. Like if you go to our links, the rollover allows you that if you put your mouse pointer on it, you can use this to give a more in-depth description of the item or provide some more explanation of what that's going to take you. So new books, there's a new book list, movies, new movie list. In my opinion, if they were going to do that in this website, they should have provided some kind of rollover that at least you could roll it over this and it would give you more information on what it does. Mac and Via, I have no idea what that is. And I'm going to give you an example of a website I really like, a really good one. So here's one very nice, very clean. First thing they offer you is a search. They do have a sign-in up here in the corner, which is a common thing for websites. A lot of your experienced users are going to know to look up for them there in the corner. Very, very clean, very, very easy to use. Now they do have their hours and locations here as a separate link that's at the bottom. That would maybe be my only complaint. If they're a multi-branch library, that locations and when they're open, it would be nice to have it right up here at the top where you see the other information. If you want to read a really good book on website design, I highly recommend this book here. Let me bring it up. It's getting a little out of date because it really doesn't address the mobility aspects we have to take into account now. But it's a super, super book. It's really short, really quick read, and that's kind of his whole philosophy is if your patron on your website has to spend any time trying to think and figure out what they're supposed to be doing, your design is failing. It's not what it needs to be. And for anybody that does have responsibility to the website or has input to the website, it's a really short book. I highly recommend giving it a read through. guide it's pretty much common sense when you read it, but it's amazing how many bad websites are out there and how many people just don't use some common sense when they're trying to plan it or lay it out. Another really good article for website design, I'm going to bring this one up. This is an article on library terms that users understand, and it's worth a read through when you're talking about terms that library users won't understand. So here's acronyms and brand names. You know, database, they aren't going to know what database is. Here we talked about library catalog, e-journals, index, interlibrary loan. You know, so their recommendation is kind of make it a little more actionable. So instead of search, find books. Instead of e-journals, find articles. You know, other combinations of natural language target words. And then they also mention about, you know, mouse overs, where if you put it on find books, you can then have a mouse over pop up that can give you a little more information, a little more detail on exactly what that option is and what it's going to do. Another couple quick points. Our library was founded with a generous grant from the Sump family here in Papillion. So we're Sump Memorial Library. You wouldn't probably be surprised how many phone calls we get for people that are trying to find the Papillion Public Library because they have no idea it's called Sump Memorial Library, even if they lived in Papillion all their lives. So one thing you really want to think about is if your website has a tagline feature, you really want to think about using it in a way to solve that issue. So we're the Sump Memorial Library. With the tagline, we are Papillion's Public Library. So it's nice if you're in Google and you do a search on Papillion Public Library, it picks us up based off of that tagline. So that gives us the ability to use our true name and what it is, but if people are looking for Papillion Public Library on the web, our tagline will be part of that search result, and it got us right up the top. It got us right up into the top of the search results with Papillion Public Library for what they're looking for. And that is all I have. Did anybody have any questions for me?
All right. Okay. Thank you, Sherm. Does anybody have any questions? Sorry. Type them into the questions section. Any ideas, thoughts about doing your web page or comments on what Sherm has done here? See if anything comes up. Ask him for other tips or anything. Looks like we're just seeing a blank blue screen now on your side there, Sherm.
Yeah, I'll bring my website back up.
Okay, yeah.
I'm trying to get back to the webinar screen. Here we go.
There you go. Okay. We do have one question that came up. Do you have to type a URL to get to the article from UC Berkeley?
I just put that in off my notes. The title, article title was Library Terms That Users Understand. And I have this all in a little Word document that I will pass on so we can post this up with the notes for today's presentations on several really good resources I've utilized for figuring out how to do our library site design.
Okay, we'll include that. We'll look up for some of the stuff they talked about to have into the links that we have afterwards. Which, like I said, I'm going to work on collecting all of that. Any other questions or comments or anything for Sharon here? We have a few minutes left before in this half hour.
Yeah, you know, a common complaint I hear from some of our smaller libraries, especially if your library's webpage is tied into a city website and you only have the one page, because you may not be able to make changes to it readily, but obviously there's some key things here you need to advocate for, to have on your website to make it usable for your patrons.
Yes, definitely. Make sure they have on there, they are hosting your one page, running it, but you should be able to say what needs to be on there. All right, doesn't look like any urgent questions have come in. That's cool. You guys know where to find Andrew Sherman. He's at Sump Memorial Library, obviously, in Pavilion. So thank you very much, Sherman. That was great. And
Welcome.